recap of Elon Musk on Clubhouse, our first experience with Clubhouse, and some questions about how to educate people for the future. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's February 1st, 2021. This is Krim Delco for the day. The fund's up 6.5%. The market's up roughly 1.5%. We are up 20.5% for the year. The market's up roughly 0.5% for the year. We're outperforming by 20% yesterday evening. Elon Musk showed up on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a new social app that allows audio interaction with people. There was a Q&A. There were moderators, people, Mark Andreessen, other people were asking questions. We were able to listen in. We didn't have the opportunity to ask questions. So here are a few highlights from that experience. I want to talk generally about what I think about Clubhouse. I did attend another event today, and then just a few general thoughts about education, going back to the Elon Musk conversation. So first, Elon Musk spoke about Neuralink. He spoke about Tesla. He spoke about education. He spoke about, actually spent a lot of time talking about Robinhood and sort of stock investing and things like that. Here's what we thought this event looked like. I think most of the questions were shallow. Most of the conversations were shallow. And here are the questions we would have liked to ask. Number one, why is SpaceX not public yet? And when will it go public? And why not now? What are the reasons? Please elaborate. Number two, what are you going to do about Chinese disruption coming from below? And number three, why are you letting Herbert Diess from Volkswagen troll you? He is misinforming the market with things like we're outselling Tesla. He is trolling Tesla and Elon Musk by calling meetings whose purpose is to go after Elon Musk. Why is this happening, and what are you going to do about it? Those are the three main questions we would have liked to ask. They weren't asked. This is just in light of what Clubhouse hopefully will evolve into, which is a mix of a general conference setting and a coffee shop setting. So something in between where you can ask more general questions with relevance, but not, of course, we're not going to ask, give me the guidance for next quarter. And we're also not necessarily going to ask, what's your favorite show on Netflix? Something a little bit more tangible, for example, like this Herbert Diess question, which I think is a beautiful question because it's relevant, it's dangerous, and it's still general enough that you can sort of talk about it on a Sunday night in a setting like Clubhouse. So this would be our impressions from the Elon Musk appearance. He spoke a lot about the situation around Robinhood, and I think I give him a slack for that because I think Elon Musk really doesn't understand the financial system. Who does? If you haven't worked on Wall Street, you just don't understand how it works. You don't understand the plumbing and the mechanics. Actually, nobody understands. We have people like I don't want to name names, but these so-called professional investors who tweet and say, well, you don't understand the plumbing. Well, you don't understand. Nobody understands. The plumbing of the financial markets is deliberately obscured because it benefits a few people, and those people are making a huge effort not to show it. And to be fair, who know what is the plumbing of the aviation system of the United States? What is the plumbing of the traffic, the car regulatory licensing system? Or I mean, we don't know most of the plumbings in our society, and the reason is we don't know is we only hear about it when it doesn't work, and then we start questioning it. And this is exactly what happened with Robinhood. And I think Musk is perfectly fair to ask the CEO of Robinhood, well, what happened here? Can you explain to me? Were you coerced in the behavior? All these questions are valid, and I wouldn't hold it against him. We had another event today on Clubhouse about biotech with Vijay Pandey and some other Jorge Conde from A16Z. I think here's my impression. It was a relatively shallow event. I think because the guest, his name is Alexis something. I just thought it just wasn't a very impressive guest. So I think if you do the format along the lines of we have a guest and we do the moderating, so it's a bit like a conference or a podcast. Well, then of course everything hinges on the guest, and this guest just wasn't very impressive. He bragged about reading books with his 12-year-old son, things like that. Just not a very impressive human being. What was shared was a lot of general knowledge, not a lot of new information. The digitization of biology, the cell therapies are the new thing, and a lot of things. Maybe there's an overfunding of biotech companies. We are looking at a potential dilution of talent. So there were things like that discussed, fair enough. And I just think there is not a lot of new information there. My colleague uh, and partner Zovinar shared something today. She said that in Hollywood, when celebrities give interviews, they always negotiate. You're going to get 80% old information and 20% new information. So maybe this is how all these events kind of function. And I'm just going to give you a few new things, but most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is old thing. I don't know. But my general impression of Clubhouse is here are some of my suggestions as an early user. First and foremost, get good, make sure you get good people to talk. This is super important. I can already see it starting to crowd with a lot of stuff and a lot of mediocrity. It might work. I mean, this is how Twitter grew, this is how Facebook grew, but maybe one could curate it a bit more and make sure it's really high quality. High quality content, I think, would be great. And then once you have high quality guests, um, find a way to surface interesting questions. I don't have the answer. Find a way. Moderating, gatekeeping, it's the old system, and we can do some of that. So, Mark Andreessen can ask questions. He's a smart guy. Jorge Conde or Vijay Pandey can ask questions, and so on and so forth. We can have Wall Street analysts asking questions. I mean, we've been there, we've seen that. Some of them are good, but find a better way. Maybe you could use some sort of pricing mechanism where people get an allocated budget. It can be real money or fake money, but then they can kind of pay for the right to ask questions. Say.com has that voting system. I don't like it because, I mean, with all due respect, let's say somebody like Rob Maurer has 60,000 followers on YouTube. He gets to ask all the questions. I don't know. It's all right, but it doesn't. I think there should be more competition. There should be more competition. So the voting system on its own, in my view, is not the best way. There would find a way, algorithmatize the surfacing of interesting question. I think this would be my two big takeaways from my early experience with Clubhouse. Number one, I would say limit the presentations to high quality and then grow it from there. Grow it slower. Don't grow it at all means. And second, find ways to surface questions from the crowd in a more intelligent way. The last thing I want to mention today is Elon Musk spoke about education. Actually, Mark Andreessen asked that question. This is the biggest question I have for Elon Musk. Here's the question these are my words. Elon, you are building the most important companies of the future. The people that are 10, 20 years old now will try to work for your companies. What kind of education is ideal for them to be able to work in your companies? Now, the way the question was asked is more general. What does the education look like that prepares people for the future? But it's the same kind of question because he's building the companies of the future. And his answer was, I think, not very clear. He said, my kids are educated on YouTube and they like gaming, so we should gamify education. He then said something more tangible, which is if we could kind of combine usefulness and application towards the theoretical or foundational knowledge. So he uses the analogy of the wrenches and the car manufacturing. So instead of learning, how do you make a car? Well, you need welding and wrenching. So this is what you need the welding for, and this is how you weld. Instead of this would be the right way versus the way it's done today is you have a course for wrenching, a course for welding, and then at some point down the road you realize, oh wait, this is used for making cars. So in that sense, he's trying to say, well, how about we use it more applied? I've done some courses like that. For example, I've done C++ programming applied straight away into sensor fusion for self-driving cars. I found that a bit difficult because I would have liked to have just a separate course of C++ just to learn the foundation. The problem is a separate course of C++ just to learn the foundation is terribly boring. So how do I combine these two things? Or in other words, there is sometimes the foundation that needs to be there to be able to actually grow your knowledge on top of all the foundation to really be effective. For example, when I did my quantum mechanics work and my quantum computing work, I really had to understand the foundation of quantum mechanics, at least at my level. It's again, my level is MIT open courseware level, so I don't want to brag here about being a quantum physicist or anything, but I still had to spend months and months at MIT open courseware to understand the basics of quantum physics, to then have a chance to understand some of the problems that are inherent with quantum computing. So again, like this application driven learning, it sounds good in theory, but in practice sometimes you just need a foundation, and that foundation sometimes can be very dry. So anyway, he spoke about this. I would like to talk more about this with Elon Musk and Tesla, because I think the limiting factor with Tesla will increasingly be people. By the way, this was discussed also in this Clubhouse conversation about biotech with the biotech partners at A16Z. They spoke about the dilution of talent, because you have a lot of capital going after biotech solutions, but there's no talent. I think the answer is, well, because the problems are new and the applications are new, the talent pool can also be new. So I don't see a big problem there. In fact, I think capital can actually attract new people and new types of talent to the solution of some of these problems. And last thing I want to say, and this is from a podcast that I just listened today, a very great podcast, one of those ones that it's a Lex Friedman one. Lex Friedman, kudos to you. Every now and then you hit the nail on the head. This one with Natalia Bailey. She is founder of Axiom. She's a rocket scientist, great woman. I think she should work with SpaceX. Hopefully one day she will. Same kind of thinking, same kind of positive, engineering driven, foundational, humble attitude towards science and engineering. I think just also an interesting and great human being. Just I think I can tell that now from just listening to somebody over 2 hours. Anyway, so they spoke about rocket science, propulsion technology, etc. And she said something that really stuck in my head. She said, the biggest problems I have and the biggest interesting problems I have are always material science problems. And I think this is the nutshell. This is the answer to, if you're 15 or 10, 15 or even 20 years old now, go study material science. I think material science will be the science of the next 10 to 20 years. I don't care if it's in propulsion technology for physics, if it's in aerospace technology, if it's in electric car technology, even biotech, all the genomics stuff, the synbio stuff, the cell therapeutic stuff, the cell therapy stuff, the cell programming stuff. Anywhere you look in our portfolio, and our portfolio reflects kind of where we see the next 5 to 10 years in terms of wealth generation, it's all in the end about material science. There's a lot of other problems, computer science, algorithmic science, math. A lot of these things matter, but material science, or like somebody that I interviewed a few months ago, it's the atom whisperers. When you look at a surface on an atomic scale and how the surface interacts with other forces and surfaces, this is material science, and this is really the solution to a lot of the problems that we're tackling right now in aerospace, in electrical. Basically, the Elon Musk companies, maybe with the exception of the Boring Company, the Elon Musk companies can be all reduced to a material science problem, which then gets turned into a business. There's again, there's a lot of other problems on top of that. You have to have a sales organization at Tesla. You have to have a service organization. You have to have a software as a service model for Tesla in terms of delivering software to cars. There's a lot of other problems. But the foundation of Tesla, which is, in our view, a cost structure for battery technology and drivetrain, which will propel the company into the future and make it possible for them to produce 20 million cars, it is a material science problem. The foundational problem for SpaceX, material science; foundational problem for Neuralink, material science. So I think this today is a bit of a sort of recap of podcasts and interviews and readings. I said this many times in this podcast, reading is the blood of a hedge fund manager. Reading books, reading blogs, listening to interviews, podcasts, participating in them, even though that's more difficult right now with COVID. But I think this type of interaction is really the key of idea generation and also calibration for ourselves. Okay, where do we stand? What is what we're thinking actually relevant, or maybe we're living in a different multiverse? All these things always boil down to, let's calibrate our theories. Let's earn the right to be wrong, hence the name Not Even Wrong. Let's earn the right to be wrong by developing an explanation for what we see in reality and then translate this into our portfolio and hopefully follow our mission to generate wealth by investing in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices with large impact. Thank you.